Hi friends. So today we're going to be solving the search party quest. In this quest, we're going to touch parts of software development like front end, back end, database. So it's going to be like a full stack package. In this quest, we are going to be implementing a search feature in the Anything marketplace, and it's estimated to take about 3 hours to solve this quest because it's an intermediate quest and we have to touch like several aspects of software development. So um yeah, so let's do it. So you can just click on continue. I've tried this quest before, right? So I can just click on continue quest, but for you it's going to be start quest if you've not done this quest before. So I'm just going to click on continue quest, and it's going to take me straight to the anything charts where we are going to meet our loveliness that tells us what we need to do, how we need to do it, and when we need to do it. So let's get started. Yness says, oh, Grace, you're here. Before you do anything else, please run the following command on your repo /stats_quest.sh. Let me know once you're done. So let's do that. So /start_quest.sh. So let's run this command. When we run this command, the next thing we need to do is return is done. So Nest wants to tell us what we need to do. So Nest says we've been getting complaints about the way our marketplace is built. Things like, how am I supposed to find anything when it seems like every page is devoted to a squirrel picnic decks, or everything is so messy, it almost looks like you are selling just a bunch of random stuff, the usual. Now, I know we should follow protocol and ignore them, but Eve, our product managers, PMs, is a bit worried, so we've been asked to add a search option to the marketplace, or more precisely, I was asked to ask you, so consider yourself asked. But before we implement the full UI, we need to first add product filtering to our support to our API. In other words, when retrieving a list of items using a GET request, there should be an option to add a query filter called title, so that once we call this endpoint, the backend will show all the relevant details whose title contains the same title query. You're not being timed on this, so I'm totally not starting a timer right now. Just don't forget to send the PR when you're done. So the key thing here is 3 things. Add product filtering to our support. 1, create a query filter called title in an endpoint that renders all the items. That's pretty much what we need to do, right? Here, we need to add a query filter in an endpoint and add a query filter called title, an endpoint that renders all our items. So this is pretty much like straightforward. And we know that we need to, implement this in the API. We know that we need to add a query filter called title. We need to know that we know that we are doing this inside the endpoint that gets all the items. So let's start up our Anything marketplace. So the first thing we need to do is to create a new branch, because we're going to be sending a PR and we cannot send the PR to main. So I'm just going to do grid checkout, search party. Let's call this title query, right? Implementation. Query API, right? Let's call this a query API. So we'll switch to a new branch. So let's run Docker Compose up, because we need to start our Anything marketplace. So wait for our front end to start, wait for our back end to also start. Okay, our back end has started. Then we also wait for our front end to start. So let's confirm our back end has started. So we can just go to localhost. So localhost 3000. So anything backend is running, then you can confirm that our API can be called. So let's do /items. So these are like all the items we have that I've added personally to my project. Now, the next thing we need to do is confirm if our front end is running. So yeah, it shows that our front end is running, right? Yes, it shows our front end is running. So we can confirm by going to localhost 3001. and our front end is running. Now, the next thing we need to do is to actually find out where our API is in our code. So we can go to, so how we're able to find it is it's in the backend folder, right? It's in the backend folder. So just close all of this, let's close all of this, let's close all of this. So in our backend folder, you can, since this is a backend issue, we need to find out that our API is usually stored in the routes. Then we have our API because, local slash route slash API, it's usually is a route. That's where, we are making our API requests. So slash APIs to slash items, it's not for profiles, it's not for tags, not for users, it's for the items, right? Because we are going to make the get request inside the query filter, inside the API endpoint that pulls down, that retrieves all the items we need. So let's see where we need to do so. So it is certainly not in router or param. We are not trying to preload items. So this is where we need to do it in router.get. So this is what pulls the items that we need. Every single item in the API, this is what pulls it. So slash, right? Can you see? So router.get. And this is where we need to do our implementation. So if you can see here, there are other queries here like limit, offset, and tag, right? So what we need to do is to implement title, which is pretty much similar to how the tag is being implemented. There's a check, and after the check, you tell it's how it should make the API request to get items by title. So let's just do it. So if similar to what we have above, type of request dot query dot title, not tag, is not equal to undefined, then do something. So we've basically told make a check that if request, so if the query, right, if the query has a title, do this. But if the title is undefined, do nothing. So this check only works when the query has a title. So query dot, so query dot title, right? So query dot title, technically, that's what we'll do. But since we are dealing with string here, we might probably want to do a regular expression that basically helps us check if the what is written in the search bar is text, and basically render it based on what's written in the search bar. So we're just going to create a new regular expression called regex. Then very ironic name, but then new regular expression. So we have a regular expression object that helps us render a regular expression. Then we pass in the query. So request dot query dot title. So this should be, yes, shouldn't be a string. Then the way regex works, the new regex works, it works in a way that you have a pattern, which is a string. Then we also have a flag, which is an optional option. So we can just put I, has to be a string, right? So the next thing is we're going to do query dot title, which is equal to we pass in the regex, the regular expression object. So let's call this regex. Then we pass in the regex we've created. And that's pretty much what we need to do to implement, this particular option of, being able to query our API by title. So the next thing we need to do is to send API. So let's go back to our code and send API. So here, we basically want to first lint our file. Really, really important to lint your file before you send the PR, because we have a lint check. And if you don't make this PR lint check here in your local, it will fail when you send the PR. You have to do the whole process of sending a PR, sending a fix to the PR. So you do that by running npx criteria dash write dot. Oh, we're doing this in the front end. No, shouldn't be in the front end. Should be in the back end. So let's do it in the front end, in the back end. MTX, PTR, that's right. Okay, so Let's go back to our root directory of this code, then do a git status to see what has changed. And a lot of code has been linted for us, so we will not fail the link check we have at the moment. So let's do a git add dot and git commit -m. Let's call it implement title query. So let's say implement query API by title. Yeah, let's call it implement query API. Query API by title. Perfect. So next thing we need to do is do a push. So git push origin search Betty title query API. Yes. Sorry, it should be an origin, not origin. That's my bad. Origin. So we need to create a pull request. Shortness finds it and reviews it. So then for the description, you can just copy what we already have since it's very descriptive. So we can just call this implement query by API. So once we send the PR, once we create the PR, see what Nest has to say. Lovely. Let me take a look. So we sit back and relax and wait for Next to check the PR and let us know if what we've done actually works. This takes like a few seconds. So let me quickly refresh this page just so everything is updated. Okay, so checks passed. That means our implementation is very correct. And we would soon be moving on to the next part of this quest. Okay, so looking good. Now we can move on to the UI since we've implemented the search query by title. On the API, we'll now be moving on to the UI. So let's see what Ness has to say. Is now looking good. We can move on to the UI. So let me go ahead and merge it, right? So merge pull requests, confirm merge. Okay, I've merged the pull requests. So Ness says, okay, so now we have an API that can filter results. It's time to add a UI, add a search box to the main page where this ID is search box. It should look something like this. Doesn't have to look exactly like, but it should look something like this. And when creating the UI, make sure it can search for matches in the item titles after at least 3 characters. So we already have the specification here. This check should only happen after 3 characters. With a new search for every new character added or subtracted. Use the search mechanism to filter the items presented on the home page when you're done opening PR. So there's that, right? Next thing we want to do is, since we have new requests and we've closed this PR and the branch has probably been closed, we don't want to open it again. Let's do another new switch /c. We call it search party -party implement UI. So now we are in a new branch and we just need to implement the UI. So if you can see this, right, it says a place to get, and there's a search bar in between this, the cool stuff. So let's go back to our goal. So we need to find out what component deals with this, right? What component handles this? So there's a way to do this, right? Just like we have inspect elements, we also have React Dev Tools. So the React Dev Tools basically allow you inspect a React application and know where it's coming from, what component handles what. So let's use it. So you can install it by going to searching for React Dev Tools on Google and installing it as a Chrome extension. As you can see, this is what is responsible for it. So open developer tools and components and profiler tabs will appear right before you. So let's do that. So inspect, come here. So look at the dev tools. This is the profiler, this is the component. So we're interested in the components. We need to know where a place to get good stuff components is coming from, right? So let's highlight this, right? Hold on, sorry. So let's highlight this. So if you can see this, while we are like trying to break through every single thing, you can see that the home component is what renders every single thing that we can see in the app, apart from the navigation upwards. So everything downwards here. So if you break down the home component, we have the banner component. So as you can see, a place to get good stuff, get the cool stuff, it's actually in the banner component, right? It is not in any other component. You can see that it's actually in the banner component, and that's where we need to implement the search. So let's go to our code. Then let's close our backend because we no longer dealing with anything relating to backend. Then let's go to front end. Then go to SRC, go to components, then go to home because it's in the home. If you check here, if you come here, you will see that it's in home. It's in the home component. So it is sub-component inside the home component, right? So come to banner. So a place to get. Now we need to implement it between, let's look at necessary specifications, between get and the cool stuff. So we need to implement it here, right? This is where we need to implement the search, right? So to implement this, it's pretty easy. To implement the search itself is pretty easy, but what comes with it is adding the capabilities to actually search. Let's just quickly implement the search bar so we can see it visually. So next search, she wants it to have an ID of search box, right? So just going to create a form. We're going to create a form. Because it's a form technically, because we are sending data to the API. So it's a form. Just creating an input does not give it that, accessibility, right? So it's a form. So then we pass in an input tag. Input tag is also obviously a self-closing tag. So style, how do we want it to look like? So let's just give it a width of, 250. Let's give it a width of 250 px, right? A width of 250 px works. Then let's give it a type, since it's going to be for text. Let's give it a type. Let's give it a type of text. Then let's give it a placeholder of, we'll check for what's necessary about the placeholder. It has a placeholder of what is it that you truly desire. So let's add it. What is it that you truly desire? Then the next thing we need to do is we need to add a name. Let's just call it term because it's going to have the search term. This is just all for accessibility. Then the ID that next search you wanted, and it's going to be search dash box. Then we pass it an unchange, what is going to happen basically when we are typing it, but we have to create a new function from that, and that's not exactly what we are going to do right now. But let's just implement the search box first. So on change, then you just leave this empty because we will need it later in the code. So we also need to pass in props here because we will also need to but let's just leave this for now. Let's just leave this for now. So let's just make sure that we have something we can see. So we are having, let's see, what does it say? It says attributes must be assigned to a non-empty expression. Attributes must only be assigned to a non-empty expression. So let's just take this out for now. Since it's making our code break. So we have this already, right? We have this already looking really good. We have this already looking pretty good. So let's refresh this. We have this looking pretty good right now. Right? So this is what we wanted. I just wanted us to actually have this just implemented right there so we can see exactly what we are working with. Now, since we've done the UI part, let's add like a bit of functionality. So the first thing we will need to do is we need to find where we can make requests to actually so basically consume whatever we write inside the search bar and then make a GET request. So there's a file called the agent.js file, which is where every single thing relating to making API requests on the front end is being saved. If you can see, Vanessa wrote it. And we have to look for where we can do something similar. So we have we have what we call request here. And this basically makes API requests. And we also need to find where requests are being made for the items specifically. So const items is to get all the items. This is to get by seller, to get by tag. So we need to implement get by search here so that whenever we make a request on a search bar, we can then see it reflect. So let's call it by search. By search, let's be very, very careful of how we spell. We don't want to be dealing with a bug that we caused ourselves. Let's call it by title rather. Let's call it by title just so we meet the naming convention requirements. So we pass the title, then we also pass page, which pretty much looks like exactly how others have been written here. Then we want to also write requests.get, since we already have a request object there. So in this, we want to get items by title. So it's going to be items, going to be slash items, then a tag of title. Then we also need to encode it just like the way it's been done up there. Then we pass this called template literals, where you can do templating in JavaScript. Then this is going to be title. Then this is going to be and pass this. I really like the way template literals work. Really, really useful. And passing the limit. So we need to close this. We didn't close this. I'm passing the limit of 500, right? Let's collect the 1000. Then page. Then it's really important to pass in a comma here. And so this basically gives us the ability to search by title, and we'll be consuming it in our banner.js file. So let's go back and make sure that nothing breaks. Okay, so there's nothing really breaking and everything looks good. So the next thing we need to utilize this function here and basically use it to make requests whenever someone types into the search bar. So we need to import our agent file because we've used because that's where we made the request to get by title. So import agent from dot slash agent, right? Agent. So of course it's not highlighted because we've not used it anyway, but you can see that we have access to making every single request that we've made here. So we also have our by title here. This is what we need. This is why we are importing agent. So now that we've imported our agent file, we need to do a bit much more things. So let's pass in props here. Let's pass in props here, right? It's really, really important that we pass in props here. Then the next thing we need to do is to also check that we are actually so this project rather uses Redux, to handle like dispatching actions, searches of course an action. So we need to implement a reducer for that. We also need to create an action type for our search feature. So the next thing we need to do is to go to find where we can implement an action for our search feature, right? For our search feature. So let's move on to constants, right? Should we find it? Yeah, action types. So this is where we need to apply our search feature. So export const apply, right? Apply search. Let's call it the search filter. I wanted to call it title, but it's not really. Let's call it no. Let's call it title filter. Let's call it title underscore filter. Apply underscore title underscore filter. Okay. So that's basically what we need to do. We need to apply by our title filter. It's really, really important that we apply by our title filter. And so if you check here, we have our apply by tag filter. We also apply by tag title filter. We need to be sure that we are actually doing this correctly. So let's make sure that we're doing this correctly. So this is, see, we have an issue here. So let's call it. Okay. So can we confirm one more time that we have everything done properly? So we have applied search feature. I like to double cross check my work. I like to cross check my work just to be sure that we are not making any mistakes that can cause production to break or cause something to break. It's really, really important. Okay, so everything looks good, right? Everything looks perfect. Now, for us to be able to consume this, right, for able to use this action, we need to import it, right? It's really important that we import this particular action, right? So we need to find where we are importing it and we need to import it. So we need to go back to our home component, then we need to go back to our home component, right? Then search for our index.js and see. Okay, so import home page loaded, home page unloaded, apply tag filter. So we need to do apply title filter here. That's pretty much what we need to do here. We need to apply title filter. Then we need to actually map that action to, we need to basically mark that action to props. Basically, we need to mark that action to prop, right? We need to add it. So we need to map that state, rather, that applies our title filter. So when we apply a title filter, it changes state. So we need to map it to props. So we need to also do that, since if you look at this, apply tag filter has been done here. We also need to do the same for the search filter. So title filter rather. Should I have named it search? Okay. Type apply. Right? Are we doing this correctly? No. Oh, apply title filter apply title filter. Then, of course, it's not going to be a tag, it's going to be title. Then pager, same thing, payload, pretty much same as the tag filter, right? Then we do a comma. So this is pretty much looking good, yeah? So they are pretty much unused, yeah? We will use them, sometime. So yeah, this is what we need to do for the most part of this solution. This is what we need to do. So let's be sure that we are doing this correctly. Let's sure that we are doing this correctly. Let's be sure we are doing this correctly. Maps to the props. So yeah, so this is not what we are doing, right? We need to, so this is not where we are supposed to do this, right? This is not exactly where we are supposed to do this. This is incomplete. So if you see the way this is being done, it should be on click tag. So when you click on this tag, you do this. So instead, we are basically just writing a dispatch for no action. So we need to do on search, right? Let's call it an on search. Let's call it on search. Then we're passing our title, passing our pager, then we pass it our payload. Then you run this. And yeah, so this is what we need to do basically. We now have on click tag, on search, on load, and on load. Basically all we've imported here, we've used it, right? So the next thing we need to do is to actually use this, right? We need to actually use this, the next thing we need to do. So let's move on to where this home, the banner component is being used since it already has props. Let's move on to where the banner component is being used. So where do we use the banner component? Should be, let's search for banner, right? Let's search for banner. Okay, so this is where the banner component is being used. So it's just pretty much, what we just need to do is pretty simple here. So we do this on search, right? On search, let's call it on search filter. Let's call it on search filter. Then we pass in our props. So this dot props dot on search, right? So because we need this banner now has support for props, so we need to use we need to implement the prop type, which will be done pretty much later. So and after that, we need to now implement our reducer, right? We've implemented an action, we also need to implement our reducer. We need to implement our reducer. It's really, really important that we implement our reducer. So let's find out where reducers are being stored. Let's find out where reducers are being stored. Reducers, okay. And where reducers are being stored. So we need to find our item reducer. Then we need to import our search filter here. So apply title filter. Then we also need to add a case for it. So we need to add a case for our reducer for our search feature. So let's do this. Let's add it. Let's add it. Where will be convenient? Delete comment, add comment. So let's add it here. Case apply title filter, right? Apply title filter. Then come here and click on return. Come here, click on return. Return. Click on return. Then we spread our states because we want to apply, make changes to our states, and call it pager. Just pretty much, I think it's pretty much, right? Are we supposed to do this here? Items. No. This is not where we are supposed to make the change. This is not where we are supposed to make the change. So let's just, clear this out. This is not the reducer we need. It's in the items list, right? Not the item, it's items list, right? So we need to do apply title filter here. So let's do a command. So let's delete what we've done here. So we don't need this here. So items list, apply title filter. Then yeah, perfect. So we do this here. So case apply, yes, apply title filter, then return spread our states because we're making changes to our states. Whenever that action is happening, then pager pretty much same thing as above, action dot pager in do a comma items actions dot payload, sorry, actions dot payload dot items, right? We're on track. Then items count action dot payload dot items count. Then for the tab, give it null. Then for the title, we give it action, the action dot title. This should be action, not actions. Let's be very careful. Then current page, give it 0. Okay, so since we're done with this, we need to also do another thing, right? We need to also do another thing. And we also need to do another thing in the reducer. Right? In this reducer, we also need to do another thing to our reducer. We need to add one more thing, one more feature to our reducer. So we need to add no results, another state, no results, action. Let's just add this. This is for when we have no results. So action dot payload dot items dot length should be equal to 0, right? So you can add this. Then, and I think this pretty much solves it. So let's check our code. Agent is defined but has no. So let's go back to. So let's go back to our code. Let's go back to our code. Let's go back to our code and see. So we need to implement another thing for our change. When something changes, right? We need to implement one more thing. We need to implement one more thing. Just give me a second. We need to implement one more thing. We need to implement a on search change feature. So this feature basically help us to make the get request that searches after 3 characters. That's what the responsibility of this function will be, to make the search change, to make the search for on our endpoint when we've done added 3 characters. So this will be implemented in the banner.js file. This is implemented in the banners.js file. So let's go to the banners.js file. Let's go to the banner.js file. Where's the banner.js file? So let's go to the banner.js file. Where's the banner.js file? Should be in the components, home, and banner.js. So let's implement that. So it's going to be cont. This was what I wanted to do when I added the onSearch change to the onChange attributes to our inputs. So this is what I wanted to do. So cont on search change will be equal to event. So an event is going to happen here. So event has been deprecated. So let's put E. Let's put E. Then props dot on search props dot on search props dot on search filter props dot on search filter, then run this props dot on search filter, then we carry our event. So E dot target dot value. So we are targeting our value. Then we want our value to change to age. So passing this callback function. Then we run this. We run this. And search should be this. Shouldn't be this. Should be a function, right? On search filter should be a function. So page. So page, then we basically make the request to our agent file. The agent we imported. So agent dot items dot by title, which is the which is this function we created to help us search based on title in the agent.js file. So event dot target dot value. So let's call this E dot target dot value, then comma agent dot items dot by title, then the event, let's say E dot target dot value. So how does it look so far? So we're basically making a request whenever there is a search for what is in the value of the what is in the value of our API of our search bar. So we're going to make a search every single time. So the next thing we want to do is to add a new attribute. What I wanted to add, right? Called on change. Then we pass it on search change, right? So on search change, right? So just presetting that we're actually, using this particular file on search change. So either event is deprecated, is the reason why I use E. So it's basically us making a request based on what the value of the event that's happened is. So, and I think that's pretty much what we need to do to implement our search feature. Let's be certain that we are actually doing everything correctly. So let's go back to our banner file and see if, okay, so our banner file can see on search, right? So our banner file can see the on search prop that we created. So we need to be certain that the banner file can see the on search prop that we created then banner props. So let's go back. Props.onSearch filter. Then it's also be setting that we are doing every single thing correctly. So let's go back again to our action types and see if there's any error. Okay, so let's give this a question. So let's go back here and see. Okay, I don't think we need this. We made the change in items list. So where's the change we made? Okay, so this is the change we made. So this would be implemented sometime later, right? This would be useful when we are trying to when we are trying to render something after a failure has happened, right? This would be very useful. So let's just comment this out first. Let's comment this out first. Let's comment this out first. It would be very useful when we are actually trying to create something that when we say we want to render something when there's no search result, right? So it's something that we are actually going to use very soon. So let's see if this works, right? Let's go back to our code. So in line 9, there's an error. In line 9, they said expected. What was the error there? Expected an assignment of function, but also saw an expression. Line 9 in 9. 1, 2, 3, 4 in 9. So what is the issue? What issue are we having here? What issue are we having here? So what issue do you guys think I'm having here? Right? What issue am I having here? What issue am I having here? On search change, right? E, then we pass in the event, right? E, then props dot on search filter, then event E dot value, then we pass in our page, target the value. Let's bring this down here so we can clearly see. Then we have our arrow function, which should be like an expression. Okay. So we have an arrow function. Then we pass in agent of items, the title by title, right? We used by title. Let's be sure, yeah, by title. By title takes in the title and the page. So let's go back to Abana.js. By title and E. So let's give this columns, then E, the target of value, then passing on the E, the target of value to make a search again. So we are pretty much up to date. So let's just see if let's give this event. Let's give this also event. Let's give this also event. Give this event. Let's give this event. Just so we are very much more descriptive. And I think we are good to go. I think we are pretty much good to go. Let's check our code again. Okay, so we've solved that issue, right? So yeah, I think this is what we need to do to solve our problem. So let's see, what's the title of this? Let's see, food. So that works, right? Food works. So let's do body shots. No items are here yet. So body shots works. So our search implementation works on the front end. Now let's
It's 2 p.m.
make a
Good
shift.
afternoon, Shedrack.
So let's make a shift. Let's make a push rather, and let's see how far we go. So let's do first thing we need to do is always make sure that we actually linked correctly. So git status. So let's do a cd front end. We do an ls. So let's do npx right here dash right. Okay. Then go back to it, then do a git add dot and a git -m implement search mechanism on the front end. Then do a git push origin search party dash implements UI. So fingers crossed that this works on the first try, since it works on our local. So we go back to GitHub, do this, then we also copy this just so we are, since our commit message is descriptive, then let's create a pull request. So we have to wait for our pull request to be complete. So next says that was fast. Let's see. So we wait for the check to complete. So let's be setting that. So we have to wait for our check to actually complete. So it seems like our check has started, started running. So let's refresh this again. We have to wait for a few seconds for all our checks to complete. So Wilco checks are currently running. We go back to our pull request. Let's see. Checks is taking a bit long. So let's refresh this and see if it's done. Okay, so our implementation works, right? And it looks great. We've implemented our search mechanism. Nest says, yeah, it works, right? So the next thing we need to do is we need to merge it. So let's merge it. Then go back to see what next says. Next says, oh no, someone just searched for a dishwasher. A dishwasher wouldn't, why would you want to buy a regular dishwasher? Oh boy, we didn't expect this to happen like ever, but some users just don't know what's good for them. I already checked with the HR and they said we can't punish them for it. So let's at least make sure we sternly reprimand them. Please add an appropriate scolding text to the system to be displayed in the result box when a wayward user types in a string that doesn't match any product in the system, and make sure it had the ID empty. Our designer said it should look something like this. Okay, so let's do that. Before we do that, let's switch to a new branch since that branch has been closed. So git switch -c. So let's call this coding text. So let's call this coding text. So let's go back to our code. And the first thing we want to do is go back to our reducer. Where's our reducer? Go back to our reducer and go back to items list where we made that check. I said that this no result would be important for when we actually do not have anything that is supposed to be rendered, right? When you make a batch search, or we don't have the items available. So let's just comment this. Let's uncomment this. No results, right? And the next thing we would need to do is to go to our main view. So let's go back to our front end, right? So based on what Ness says, she wants it to be under the search bar. So what is responsible for things under so it should be under the popular tags. So let's go back to our React Dev Tools, inspect, then components. So for under the tag, the main view is basically responsible for rendering our items and we search them. So we need to implement it in this component. So let's go back to our code, search for components, and we search for main view. Now, this is where we need to implement basically everything we need to do, right? So let's go back to main view. Let's find main view. What is rendering the main view component? So this. So this is basically where we are going to find the main view component. So let's see. So this is the main view component, right? So here we can pass this no results to be equal to props dot no results, right? Props dot no results. Okay, so props are no results, right? So we've done this here. And the next thing is to implement the UI that shows us, hey, what happens when the UI that shows no items have been found, or sorry, this file, we couldn't find what you wanted. So we need to go and look for where the items are being rendered from. And that's what is responsible for the items is so what's responsible for the items is, let's go back let's just leave this way. So this is not really a big deal. So you can just close this. So components, what's responsible for the items is this. So items list, right? So we need to find the items list on components. So this is the items list component. Then we need to make a check here that says no items are here, right? So we need to say, okay, so we already have checks here that, okay, no items. We already have all the checks here that we need. So we need to do similar to what I've been done here. If props dot no results, then render, then return, which is going to be the UI, then return, then we should return basically, let's call it a div. Let's just give it a div, right? Let's call it the div. Then the div should have no items were found for your search. No items were found for your search. No items were found for your search. Items were found for your search. So we need to give it a class name of, let's just give it a padding on the y-axis of 4. Then give it a no items tag, class name, no items, then we pass in an ID based on what Ness has suggested of empty. And I think that's pretty much what we need to do. Let's go back to our main view, go back to our code, refresh our code. Seems like something is wrong. Let's go back to our front end and see what the error is. We have to go down because we've done a lot. Failed to compile, no result is defined, is undefined. So what might be the problem? No results is undefined. So we've not defined no results, right? So we need to check where we are, where we need to implement that. So let's do that. So let's go back to our main result and search for the prop types that we have here. So in our main view, there should be somewhere that if all the prop types are assigned. So where's this? Where's this? So yeah, so here, items list. So we need to specify no results, then pass this to the props dot no results. So we need to take this guy out here from the main view. Take this guy out here from the main view. Yeah, we need to take it out here from the main view. Then I think our code should work now. Our code should actually work now. So let's go back and see. Okay, so it works. Let's do blah, 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 blah. So no items were found for your search. Great job, everyone. You've been able to pull this off. So the next thing we need to do is, as usual, we go to make a PR. So we do cd front end as usual. Do npx prettier -- right quickly. Then we do cd dot. We do git add dot and git commit -m adds coding text for users. Then we do a git push origin, add, right? Origin, do a git push origin search party coding text. Origin search party coding text. So yeah, so the next thing we need to do is to create a pull request. You can do that by clicking on this. We can do that not necessarily clicking on it. We can just come here, copy, paste it, and we just copy this. Do this, add coding text. Can add coding text. I think that's fine. We don't need much again. Create pull requests. Then next says got it. We review in a sec. This has been one hell of a ride. So let's keep it up. Got it. We review in a sec. So let's wait for our checks to complete. So finger crossed, it works. Let's be sure that our ID, we have an ID of empty on our search. On our check, let's make sure that we have an ID of empty. So banner, main view, then items list empty. Okay. So should meet necessary specifications. So we wait and watch. We've done a great job so far, meeting up to the requirements of this particular quest and, meeting up to the requirement of this project. This has been really interesting. So let's see. See if any of the checks are done. It's taking a bit long. Okay. So the link check went through first, but the Wilco PR check is still going. Fingers crossed, guys. Fingers crossed. Let's refresh again and see if the state has been updated. Let's go out and check. Okay, so it works. Phew, it actually works. I love this. So it works and it says approved option job, awesome job. So let's measure our pull request real quick and go back and hope that there's nothing much more we need to do. So the bang up you're doing, interesting. So we still have one more thing to do. The bang up job you are doing makes me proud of myself for thinking to allocate it to you. Now let's hide all our work so that only the wordy can access it. Let's have the search box only appear after a visitor clicks the word get in our motto. So it's pretty much, this is like pretty much one of the easiest parts, and this is going to be the final PR. So basically, they want us to make the search bar only visible when they click on get. So let's do that. So let's, as usual, git switch to a new branch and call the search party and say search SERCH search visible. And then we go to our code and find out where we are making the banner. So let's go back to our banner.js components because this is where we need to implement it here. So with this, for us to do this, we need to make sure that on when someone clicks on get, it shows the banner, the search, but when they don't click on it, it doesn't. So we need to be able to manipulate the state of the get keyword itself. So we're going to use this. We're going to create a state object with React hooks. We use states. So we can do that by doing use states. Then that's pretty much how to, if you check out the stream on how to solve the hooks of change quest, you will know that we use the use states, the use states React hook to also solve that quest. So the next thing we need to do is directly under this function, or no, let's just do it before. So our code looks good. So we create a state object, we destructure it. Let's destructure it. Search visible, which is going to be the name of the state. Then set search visible, which is the setter function. So use states, let's say, call it false. So that's pretty much what we need to do. Then we need to add an attribute to the get that, okay, on click, when they click it, the search will show. So on click, we want it to show. So let's just pass in a function that changes the state of the visibility of the search to true. So set search visible, set search visible to open bracket true. Right? So this sets the state to true. Set search visible. Set search visible to true. Then we need to now also add a condition for the form itself. So let's say a conditional for the form itself. So let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. Then let's do this. Don't worry about the errors. We would fix it. I just need to get this sorted out ASAP. Okay, so we are going to just do passing the states here. So search visible. So this will only render the form when the state of search is true. And so we just pass in one of these, and that solves it, right? This is what they call conditional ranging in React. And I think that should work, right? So let's go to code, refresh it, we click on get, and it shows only that. So voila, this is the final part of the quest. Let's send a PR, let's send a PR and see what it says. So let's do a CD front end, then a npx write dot, and go back out of it, then do a git push, then a git add, rather, then a git commit -m add search visibility feature. Let's call it yes. Search visibility feature. Now let's do a git push. Origin search party search visible. So let's quickly create a PR. You can click on this link or you can copy. I always like to copy. Then do a paste. Then copy this as usual. I mean, if you want it to more descriptive, feel free, but it's even better if it's much more descriptive. So let's use what Ness has to say. Wonderful. I'll check it ASAP. So we wait, as usual, we wait for our code to be reviewed and for our checks, for the checks to complete. When the checks complete, we know our fate. Takes a few seconds as usual. And hopefully everything works out as planned and we move on from this PR. I just have like to refresh. Just like to refresh. So let's see. Okay, so our lint works as usual because we always run npx right, npx prettier dash dash right every single time we make any change to our code or before we send the PR. It's really, really important that remains the lint rules. So let's see, check and see if that works. So you can just go to our actions and just, get more insights. See, okay, complete job. So our check worked. And that is the end, hopefully. So it looks great. That's exactly what I was going for. So let's merge pull requests. So confirm merge. And wow, this is what a remarkable job you've done. In fact, right now we're having a party, blah blah, and meanwhile, definitely. So this is how to solve the search party quest. Thank you so much everybody for watching this video and for coding along. It's been really, really fun. Thank you all. See you all next time.